Okay, win video. Had to be ready for this, knew it was going to happen, always had confidence, have a bunch of ideas. Let me just pull them up. Okay, ideas if they lose. All right, scream, yell, shout, exclaim, wail, bellow, no. Blame the offense, blame the defense, blame the goaltending, blame the coaching, blame the front office, blame the fans, blame my fans. No, none of these. Here we go. Ideas if they win. Try asking again later. Why would I write that?
Jackets.
Lose. I've been waiting a long time to say this. Bees win 3-2 in regulation in Columbus with goals scored in order by Mason Marchment, Sean Corrali, Henry Jokiharju, Adam Fantilli, and the game-winning goal by Mark Kastelic, his 10th of the season. Finally, the curse is lifted. The win goes to Eunice Corpusalo, who made 33 saves on 35 shots for a .943 save percentage. The loss goes to Jet Greaves, who made 19 saves on 22 shots for an .864 save percentage. Now, before I get into anything else, we deserve a celebration. This concludes our celebration. Did we get outshot again? Yes, by a lot. Did the goalie that we put offense on have a sub .850 save percentage in the game? Yes, again. But we won. And that counts for something. In this league, it really counts for most everything. Like I said after the Carolina game, this is not the mark of a solution. Our offensive woes are not resolved and done and dusted now. But we won. And at least we can find ways to win games where our top-end offensive production is still lacking. The roster, of course, looked a little different on the ice today. Several guys had days off: Arvidsson, McAvoy, Lindholm, Hampus Lindholm. So we got to see some different looks from the defense, some new pairs, some of the depth defensemen getting more moments. That was Jokiharju and Harris mostly. And then, of course, the debut of James Higgins. I'm glad that he's ready now. I'm glad that whereas he was not ready yesterday, he was ready today. Must have been a big day. The game starts as an ass-kicking. The puck is in our zone exclusively. We're getting peppered with shots, and it looks like maybe the worst version of the game that we've seen so many times over the last couple weeks, where it's just in our zone pretty much ad infinitum. And then they score. And then it really feels like it's going to be that game, and maybe the worst version of that game that we've seen. And then we score. And we score on our first shot of the game. At the point that we score, I think we're being outshot 10-1. Don't worry, we get that down to 1 3/4 to 1, which is still a pretty bad ratio. But anyway, we tie it up and we go into the intermission tied. And it's again the kind of Bruins trick of, glad to get out of that one tied. And it gets sickening saying that over and over again. But you are glad to get out of that one tied simply because we didn't show up for the start of the game. We will be on the kill for the second period, at least the start of it, as Higgins took his first penalty. Welcome to the show, kid. A hooking, a kind of routine, normal penalty, nothing you hold against the kid. And we kill off the first half of it with a little bit of fanfare at the very end as we clear the puck over the boards, but time expires, so no penalty. It's no buzzer beater. It's not like basketball. So we're good. We're only down one man, and we only have to kill another minute or so at the start of the second. We get our kill, and we actually look pretty good as we do it. Corpusalo makes a nice glove save, Swayman-esque, dare I say. And a little bit later in the period, we get our go-ahead goal, our second goal of the game, something that has not been a guarantee watching the Bruins lately. And it's from Henry Jokiharju, and it's assisted by James Higgins. So congratulations to the kid for getting on the score sheet in his first NHL game. It took a while for them to figure out that he had the secondary assist, I think. So I hope he got that puck and it wasn't just, in some kid's pocket in the stands. But, his business, not mine. For Yoki Haru, it's another pretty good goal. It's only his second of the year. But if you look at the two goals, they're shots from good spots and good situations that are kind of hard to save. I also think he might have taken the shot that was deflected by Corrali for the first goal. I'm pretty sure he got an assist on that. By the latter half of the period, we're getting peppered again, but we find a way to fight it off. We were shorthanded 3 times this game. We're having trouble staying out of the box, which is another concern for this team, but we managed not to give up any power play goals, at least, and we go into the intermission with a 2-1 lead. And maybe we think we can do it. It's hard to stay optimistic as we've had trouble holding on to third period leads in the last couple of games, really mostly against Tampa. So I guess, you just limit it to them, and Columbus is in Tampa. We get a great chance at the start of the third period where Jet Greaves is just outside of the crease, like not covering the goal at all, covering next to the goal. Allow me to demonstrate. As though I were shooting the video like this. Unfortunately, we do not capitalize at all and actually get them the freeze to get the whole defense and goalie reset. That's an opportunity that will come back to bite you if you give up a second goal. So they get the second goal. It comes on a breakaway where Yoki Haru gets a chance to bat down a puck that's played in the air over center ice, but he just doesn't. He gets a piece of it or something. That's what the broadcaster said. It looked very weird as it happened, but the puck ends up on the stick of Adam Fantilli, streaking over the blue line. Our defensemen are out of position and way, way too far behind. Fantilli shoots and scores for his 24th, I think, of the year. It's a good goal for him and a great goal for the Blue Jackets, who do really need this win, but it's just a goal that seems to come from a whole bunch of bad things happening on the same play. So they score 2-2. And given how the last week and change has gone, you kind of get a feeling you know the way the game's going. And then with about 10 minutes left in the period, Kostelic, who a lot of people thought had gotten the first goal that was actually Corrali's, just comes up towards the side of the goal. It's from a pretty sharp angle and slots it home, goes high up towards Greaves' head, to the left side in the top corner. It's a well-placed shot. If you're a Blue Jackets fan, you probably do want to save, but it's a second goal for our fourth line tonight. And remember, the third goal, or second in order, came from Yoki Haru, so not exactly the big names getting in on the score sheet today. But even with this lead, it's difficult to feel supremely confident just how we've struggled maintaining leads and holding the line in the last few games. And Columbus comes hard. Of course, they have a ton to play for. With a win, they have a much, much better chance of taking that third spot in the Metro, which is the last spot in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Ottawa and Boston have both clinched the wild cards, and the rest of the Metro is set. So there's one spot left, third Metro. If Columbus wins, they'll still need help, but a lot less help than if they lose. Now, as time winds down, the Bruins do a pretty good job of keeping Greaves in the crease for Columbus. By the time they pull him, I think it's only 90 seconds or so left in the game. We were playing well in the neutral zone, not letting them get easy penetration and easy zone possession. We were possessing the puck in their zone so they couldn't pull him. But once they do, and even before they do, they're getting some good chances. Kirill Marchenko in particular couldn't get lucky at all today. Fanned on a couple shots, just couldn't quite settle the puck, and he's been electric for the Blue Jackets this year. So if he makes solid contact on one of those, it's hard to imagine that it's going to be an easy save for Korpisalo. But with luck or skill or the inevitable turning of fate, the Bruins hold on and get the win. Ottawa, on the other hand, loses in overtime, meaning we swap positions back again going into each of our last games of the season. The Bruins are in the first wild card with 98 points. The Senators sit in the second wild card with 97. The Senators own the tiebreaker. They have far more regulation wins than we do. So it will come down to the Bruins maintaining a points lead. So what are the good takeaways? Hagen's played, and he played fine. Took a penalty, got a secondary assist. I don't consider either one terribly to his credit or to his detriment. These are things that happen in hockey. At least with the secondary assist, hey, he's putting himself in the right situations and making a pass or taking a shot or doing something that ends up working out positively. Other positives are that we got to see other guys on the ice. Reichel, you know how much I like him. Harris, who hasn't many NHL games at all, especially this season, especially coming off the injury he was. Yoki Haru, who hasn't played as many games as most of the other defenders. So it was just nice to see a little bit of a different look on the ice. One line did stay the same, however. The line of Lindholm, Pastrnak, and Geekie. For their performance, we turn to our friend Michael DiPietrolever. He's given us a question and some context. Let's start with the context. Pasta, Lindholm, and Geekie all didn't get a point tonight and were -2 on the first line. That doesn't sound very good. And now his question. With whom should Pasta play on a line? A win is a win, and we needed a win, and we needed something to break up the monotony, and it doesn't always have to be your stars that get the offense going. One of the big advantages of this team, in fact, the reason I think we are in the playoffs is because of our scoring depth. Simply because even with our multiple, hopefully 3 goal scorers, I feel like it would be really sad if Pasta finished on 29 after having 29 for like the last 10 games of the season, but hopefully 3 goal scorers, that doesn't necessarily compete with the elite of the league. In fact, it definitely doesn't. Look at the Stars. They have 240 goal scorers. There are 50 goal scorers. And now we're in a scoring renaissance. It's a little bit more like the 90s in that regard. You get more higher value scoring. So short of that, of course, you need help from your scoring depth. And the Bruins have good scoring depth. They have people who have gotten more goals than I think you would have expected. Obviously, Fraser Minton. But Marek Kuznetsov has more goals than I think I would have expected. Victor Arvidsson kind of has more goals than I would have expected. Kostelic has his 10th of the season. Maybe that's not more than expected, but it's nothing to shake a stick at. But if we're going to win, we need to be firing on all cylinders. A pointless night isn't necessarily unforgivable. -2 from your top line is probably not going to get the job done. So to re-up the Michael DiPietrolever question of the day, you can check him out on Instagram for many more questions of the day. With whom should Pasta play on a line? I think this is a difficult question, simply because there are so many options, but I will say I don't think this is the right one. And I know he and Geekie occasionally work brilliantly together. The game against Carolina, I know we lost in overtime, but one, that was a point that ended up helping a lot in the end, and two, that's not their fault in that game, certainly. They connected for plenty of chances. Geekie got 3 goals, and Pasta created those goals by creating space. And you can keep Geekie and Pasta together. I'm not convinced it's the best idea, but even if you do that, put somebody else on the line, just to try. Zacha, Hagens. If you want to elevate his play, I know he liked this youth line with Minton and Kuznetsov, and generally the third person that's gone with them has played pretty well. I would love to see Reichel on that line simply because I think he brings a lot of energy and speed. He's fast. I watched him create plays today just by being fast and going in and disrupting play in the defensive zone for the other team. It can really just boil down to him being fast and speed being a huge asset. But anyway, I digress. Hagens could be up on that line. Zacha, it could be someone else. The lines could get jumbled completely. The other thing I'll say is Pastrnak created scoring chances using his skill against Carolina. Chances that might have been cashed by somebody other than Geekie. I was glad to see Geekie get him because he needed him. He needed the confidence. And, even since then, he's looked better. He slotted a goal in the loss to Tampa. It was a great goal. It didn't matter in the end, but it looked nice, and hopefully it's reflective of sort of a shift back towards that early season form. But Pasta can create space on the ice with his skill, and he has great vision, and he knows where to get the puck. He doesn't always put it there. In fact, a lot recently he doesn't, but he does know. I trust that he knows. So you might be able to put really anyone on. Admittedly, that is something of a non-committal answer, but I think that the individual on the line is not necessarily as important as the realization that the current line isn't really working. There are blips, and they are bright blips, but they are not consistent enough, I don't think, to constitute a rule to which the team must hold fast. In fact, I think that line can be a liability to the team as much as it is a boon. And if that's the case, and 2 of your best 5 players are contributing negatively, either due to their proximity to each other or just they happen to be in proximity to each other, then you need to change it because otherwise you cannot win. The performance of that line is, I would say, the biggest negative from today's game, if not the just generally troubling trend of constantly getting outshot. Not all shots are created equal, and sometimes you're just throwing on shots from low percentage situations and artificially inflating those numbers and making it look more dangerous. I don't think that's the case with the Bruins. I think we're getting outshot because we're not producing as much on offense. But what do you think of Pasta's performance in that top line, and how do you think we should proceed into this last game of the regular season and then into the postseason? Let me know down in the comments, and let Michael DiPietro Lover know on Instagram. I follow him on my Instagram, and I'm hoping if you're subscribed to me here, you're following me on your Instagram, so you can really just very easily go from one to the other. It's like 3 clicks. I could show you. I'm not gonna, but I could. Before we get into questions, I want to pull up one quote from Minton Enjoyer on Instagram that I think does capture the Bruins' mindset towards this game. Not the organizational mindset, but the mindset of us fans, my mindset at least. This was from before the game. Quote, "I understand we clinched, and that's great, but I'm not trying to head into the playoffs on a big losing streak. No matter what problems we encountered today, the shooting problem being outshot still happening, the top line production issue, and really liability issue, they're all real, they're all present, but it was getting to the point where we just needed to see a W in the column and to go in on not a 7-game losing streak." And I think Minton Enjoyer is exactly right. We needed this win. It might not have been for clinching stakes anymore. Maybe we didn't even need it as much as Columbus. We definitely did not need it as much as Columbus. But we needed a win. And I'm happy to get one, even if it's not pretty. Time again for BS with SB, where I look at your questions about the game and give my opinion on them, because for some reason you find it valuable. We have a couple of the same theme today, so I'm going to do them all together. From Spencer Hates Hockey, the curse has lifted. From Marat Husnutdinov Enthusiast, first win with Southie Bees. And from Bruins Hockey Gal UK, thank goodness I was going to ban you from posting during the playoffs. Laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. I was going to ban myself from posting during the playoffs because I was going to be too despondent. From Poitras Glazer 51, Poitras would do better with Pittsburgh. Hear me out. Say no more. I agree. I think Lysell and Poitras would do better anywhere. Really doesn't matter the fit or the scheme or whatever. Anywhere where they would get NHL minutes. I think certainly Poitras certainly is a player who deserves it. And Lysell, I think, can get NHL minutes elsewhere. I don't see either one of them, unless something really big changes with Poitras, making this roster consistently in the near future, simply because of the volume of forward talent we already have and young forward talent. So I would like to see them go somewhere where they could succeed, because I think I haven't seen Lysell as much. I don't watch many Bruins games, but for Poitras, when he's come up, I think he's been a dynamic and energetic player and a player I like watching. So I want to see him get a chance somewhere, and I think he deserves a chance somewhere. From Justin Brazzers, between Harris, Yoki, and Peak, who should be the 6, 7, and 8 in the playoffs? 8 is Harris, and it's nothing against him. I actually like what I've seen out of him in the NHL. But between his injury and just the amount he's been utilized this season, he has not played enough NHL minutes, and I don't think the playoffs is where you necessarily want to start that. So I think he could come in and not be disastrous, totally, absolutely, and it's great to have an 8th option on defense like that, but I think he is the 8th. As for the 7th, this may be controversial, though I know he has his haters. I'd say Peak. And the reason I'd say Peak is simply because I want Yoki Haru in the 6th, because Yoki Haru has been producing lately. I know he gave up, in a sense, the breakaway that tied the game today at 2. It was kind of a weird play, and it's a play where he should get in front of the puck and knock it down and prevent the breakaway. But he has been producing in the offensive zone, which to me is a more urgent priority right now. He has a couple of goals. He skates well. He puts himself in good situations, has good release. I think he got the primary assist even on the Corrali goal, which was deflected. Now, whether that was because he shot it so wide that the goalie was out of position, who knows, but it happened. I know that sounds like recency bias, and it is, and that's fine. And I think that should actually be a principle guiding us into the postseason. With the defense, other than Zadorov and McAvoy, and maybe Lindholm, if you still believe that, we don't have any talent that is above reproach. We do not have any talent that is, well, they're definitely part of the formula. We have a bunch of talent that are probably bottom pairing to depth quality defensemen. And so when you're in a situation like that, the maybe one upside is that it affords you a fair amount of flexibility, and you can ride the hot hand, and you can go with who's been producing the best. And right now, I think that's Yoki Haru. Peak, I am not a peak hater. I haven't been. He was brutal today. He took an insane penalty. He didn't do anything else really remarkable in possession or without it. If Yoki Haru's hot right now, and if he's comfortable playing, especially if he can play on different pairs, which I think he can, and if he can contribute to the offense like he has been with actually pretty decent shooting and good positioning in the O-zone, yeah, give Yoki Haru a shot. And if he stops doing that, or if somebody else stops doing that in the postseason, then trade him around. And if it has to be Harris going in, then it's Harris going in. I know I have him at the 8, but the difference between 6, 7, and 8, the difference between 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is not a lot on this team. And finally, from Badel Abdi 37, whom would you want to play in round 1? I feel like there's no gracious way to answer this question. So I'll process of elimination it. There are 4 possible options because we know we're a wild card and we can still finish in wild card 1 or wild card 2. So there are 4 possible options: Carolina, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and Montreal. I would like to play Tampa the least. That is because I think we match up poorly against them. They said actually on the Blue Jackets broadcast today, I had to watch that because it was on NHL Network and I don't get NESN all the way out here. So they said on the Blue Jackets broadcast today, the Tampa Bay Lightning have kind of had the Bruins number. First of all, I would say the Panthers are really the team that have had our number if we're doing it that way. And I don't even think it's that. I think we do match up poorly against them, and I think they're better than us. Our big advantage over many teams is goaltending. We do not have that advantage over Tampa. I don't think anyone does. I think Vasilevsky's the best goalie in the world. And they're so good. They're so good at every position. They've got such good top-end talent. Kucherov's amazing. Braden Point is very good. Brandon Hagel's been playing great now that he's back from injury. So, not Tampa. Not Carolina either. I'm less afraid of Carolina simply because they're a team that have struggled to finish the job, so to speak, once they get into the postseason, to really perform to their potential. But I don't want to test it. And that's a team with a ton of postseason experience, which leads me kind of into the other 2 teams. If I had to pick the 2 I don't want and the 2 that I do, the 2 I would pick are Montreal and Buffalo, kind of for the same reason, but kind of for different ones. Montreal has more playoff experience and have been on the come up. There was some outrage, I don't know if you know, the Maple Leafs Grand Poobah, I can't remember his exact title because they go through all kinds of titles, said that the reason the Leafs missed the playoffs is because they didn't see the train of Buffalo coming, of course, or the train of Montreal. I do invite him to watch the sport. I think everyone saw the train of Montreal coming. And Caulfield's playing great. Nick Suzuki is their first 100-point scorer in 40 years. Isn't that crazy? I think I also learned that. And by the way, if any stat I quote at you is wrong, blame the broadcast of the team that I watched most recently, as I plagiarize widely. But I could stomach to play Montreal. And part of it is because we're rivals, and I think rivalry series are weirder. They don't necessarily go the way you would expect them to. I mean, no game necessarily goes the way you would expect it to, but I think when you add that sort of X factor, you can get a worse team overcome a better team. And I think if the Bruins did beat Montreal, it would be a worse team overcoming a better team. The other reason that I wouldn't mind Montreal is because they have less playoff experience, certainly, than Carolina and Tampa. And in the NHL, more than in any other league, at least any other of the major American sports leagues, so baseball, basketball, football, the playoffs seem to be a different game than the regular season. There's a physical intensity. The rules are called looser. There's no ABS to appeal to. There's really not much objectivity. The refs let you get away with more. And we're a team that can play a rough and tumble style of game. We've kind of gone away from that, I feel like, in the last couple weeks, which has been frustrating to watch, in addition to our offensive frustration. And I don't think Montreal necessarily aligns with that as well. Their best scorer is a littler guy. I mean, dynamic, explosive, great talent. But playoff hockey, we might match up against them okay. We have good goaltending. I'd say better than theirs, though Dobesha has been very hot. So it's hard to say confidently that we would get better goaltending game in, game out. But Swayman's our guy, and I back him and I rate him. The team I would like to see most in the postseason, which was your actual question, is Buffalo. And I know there are no Buffalo fans watching. If somehow one day I become famous enough that you're looking back on my filmography and watching this, Buffalo fans, I mean no disrespect. I like Buffalo. I like the players who've gone from Buffalo. I like Tage Thompson. I am totally happy for them. And I do think, like I think with every team in the playoffs, I think they should beat the Bruins. I think the Bruins, other than maybe the third team in the Metro, maybe the Senators, who seem to have inconsistency in a lot of positions, I think the Bruins are the weak team in the Eastern Conference playoffs. And I think any series win would be a surprise. But I would take Buffalo only because what I said before about experience and how playoff hockey and the game is adjudicated. Buffalo has the least experience of them all. It's been however many years, 14, 15, since they last made the playoffs. Obviously, they have players that come in and go out from different places, and some of them have playoff experience, but I would rather play the team with the least experience organizationally, and that's Buffalo, and if that's a cheap answer, so be it. The good thing is, it's largely out of our hands. It's hard to know who's going to finish as the 1 seed in the conference, who's going to finish as the 1 seed in the Atlantic Division, and who's going to finish as the first or second wild card. It is in our hands. In the points race, since we have a point on Ottawa and we're equal on games, if we win our next game in any fashion, no matter what Ottawa does, we'll be the first wild card. That could be better or worse or about the same, depending on the opponents. Of course, if you get into the Metro, I mentioned this in the last video, if you start with Carolina, then you will play the Metro until there are no Metro teams remaining or until you're eliminated. So if you think the Metro's weaker and you have a weaker batch of opponents, which, I mean, mathematically with the points totals you do, that doesn't always work out like that. But then maybe it is the Metro you want. Maybe it's Carolina you want. I can see arguments from many different perspectives. Me personally, I'm concerned about round 1, and I think our best chance is to attack and experience. So I'd pick Buffalo. It's refreshing to talk about a win, isn't it? Even though I found a way to somehow complain about most of it. Some of it was good. The fourth line deserved to be rewarded for their production and their effort, and they were. And we found a way to win and to score. And no matter what the other problems are, that is the core of it. And if we can continue to find a way, even if it's not pretty, you only need to find a way 16 times. If you manage to do that without developing a system that works, I'm even more impressed, really. I'm not sure what I'll do differently for the playoffs. Maybe I'll try something, maybe I won't. I don't know. This recipe seems to be working okay. If you have any ideas of things you'd like to see in the playoffs, let me know. I'm open to including really anything into these videos. It mostly is just a way for me to explain how I'm feeling about the team at any given point. And right now, that feeling is still about what it was, just with a bit of a brighter spin today. I think it's been a reasonable amount of time since my last spiel about liking and subscribing and commenting and sharing with your friends and all that. And I just did the spiel and you didn't even notice. That's why they call me the master of subtlety. And what do you say? One last celebration for the road. Go Bees.